Good morning. I'm Barbara Mel Goldman with Channel 22, and I have a very interesting guest today. He's Bill Peter, a Sun City Grand resident. He is a futurist and a consultant. I'd like to introduce you to Bill. Good morning, Bill.
Hi, Bob.
It's nice to have you back here. I always enjoy our conversations. The name of this show is Conversations with Barb and Bill. You'll be seeing a lot of Bill in the future. Bill, today we're going to talk about where wisdom comes from. Before I let you begin, I want to say that I had the privilege and the pleasure of attending one of your classes at the college, and it was a real eye-opener, and I loved every minute of it. I did my homework, as you suggested. You let me come to the front of the class, and I thank you so much for that. Without further ado, Bill, tell us what Wisdom Sharers is all about.
Wisdom is a word that we don't use in our everyday vocabulary. Really, wisdom is the major learnings of our life that we choose to apply to the rest of our life. So if we have learned something really important, then we can apply those things to the rest of our life, and we can call it wisdom. I would like to take a little sidetrack here and tell you a story.
Love to hear it.
I'm going to tell you a word, a single word, that will change your life. And I know that sounds bold. This word can be used when you have health problems. This word can be used when you have financial problems. This word can be used when you have relationship problems. One word. I call it the magic word. Now I'm going to share that word with you, and you're going to say, what a silly word. And I will explain why it is not silly, it is really powerful. So if you're ready,
I am ready.
The word that is going to solve all of those problems is inconvenient.
The word inconvenient?
The word inconvenient. Now, and you got a puzzled look on your face.
Okay.
Because it's a funny word for me to suggest. But let's go through those issues. Suppose you have a very bad health problem. You are diagnosed with cancer. You broke your leg. Whatever. You had a heart attack. Bad health things. You think of the word inconvenient. First of all, it is not the end of the world. You are not dead. You still potentially have 1, 10, 20 or more years to live. So if you are still alive, it is not the end of the world that you had that health problem. What are you going to do about it? So what you do is you program your brain and you say, this health problem is inconvenient. Which it is, inconvenient, but you have the ability to program your brain so you don't program it as this is the end of the world.
So we magnify everything, and this puts it in its proper place. Is that what you're saying,
If
Bill?
it's not the end of the world until you're dead, okay, so therefore it's just inconvenient.
I do get it.
And maybe you'll only live 6 more months, so maybe you'll live 10 more years. Now, suppose you have financial problems. You go bankrupt. You have to go into bankruptcy court. You get fired from your job. You're afraid you're not going to have money to do what you want to do with. So you have big financial problems. Your mortgage gets foreclosed on. They take your house away from you. What you tell your mind is, it's inconvenient. It is not the end of the world. I'm still alive. I can still get another job. I can get out of bankruptcy. I can do other things. So if you've got a positive attitude in life and you're willing to do something about it, you say it's inconvenient. Last one, relationships. So you have a divorce. So you lose your girlfriend. So you lost a good friend or a spouse and a divorce, and oh my goodness, you know what? It's not the end of the world. You still can live. You can live because you're still alive, and you program in your mind it's inconvenient. So I know that's a strange word, but I've used it so many times in lectures, and people say to me after the fact, Bill, I just realized I've got a number of inconvenient things in my life, but they're not the end of the world, so I can go on. And that's one of the wisdom messages that I have learned in life, and so many people say it is valuable for them to know that they can just personally give their own self-talk as it's inconvenient.
I thank you for sharing that. Some years ago in one of the psychology classes that I took, I learned to say, so what?
Same thing.
It's happening, so what? But you placed the most important thing for me. You said you're still alive, and nobody knows for how long, so it is an inconvenience. Bill, what can senior citizens do to gain wisdom and share more of their wisdom?
Well, as you know, I teach a class called Wisdom Sharers, and it started at Sun City Grand in 2001. That's the first time any course, to my knowledge, has ever been taught on Wisdom Sharers, because I made up the word, and it was taught in Sun City Grand in 2001, and I've taught it each year to different groups. The secret is, where do we get wisdom from? And if we can figure out that we get some wisdom from our parents and some wisdom from our life experiences and our friends, and we learn things as we go, then once we get that wisdom, we should share it with others. So the formula that I found to be very, very successful is having a group of people together who acknowledge that they would like to learn from each other. And you start, however, on the individual. Like you said, you went home and did a homework assignment and then came to the front of the class on a subsequent session. I asked people to make a list, and most people do not write down the important things of their life. So just the instructor saying, tell you what, write down the important thing. What happened to you that was really important? A positive, like you got married, or you had a child, or you got rich, you hit the lottery, or a negative, you went bankrupt, your mother died, your spouse left you. Positives or negatives, write them down.
But you had to start as children. You had to start very young, and that was a real awakening, Bill.
Well, that's right.
Tell the age that you had to start.
Well, you should start, this timeline should be from birth to 100. And so if you're not quite 100 yet, maybe it only goes from birth to 70 or whatever the line. But if something very impactful happened to you at age 3 or age 5 or age 10, put it down. And it could be that your mother died, or it could be that whatever happened. But I describe people, write down 20, 30 different incidents in your life that were impactful. Now that you have time to reflect on them.
Yes.
And then boil it down to the critical 8. The 8 that are the most important things, but spread them out across your life. Something that happened very impactful when you were under 10, slightly over 10, and so on. So that if you're 60 or 70 years old, you shouldn't have them all in your first 10 years of your life or the last 10 years of your life. Spread them out. And the exercise is difficult for some people because they have never written down on a piece of paper the 20 most important things in their life and boiled it down to 8. But just that little exercise is a very self-revealing thing. With each of the 8, I ask people to first say, what was the event? And the event, when I was 6 years old, I got a blue bicycle. And you say, well, God, what's so significant about being 6 years old and getting a blue bicycle? That was the event, but the context of it was, I'd been asking for a bicycle for 4 years. And I wanted the bicycle for 4 years, and finally when I was 6 years old, I got a blue bicycle. Well, the context was, I thought I would never get a bicycle because my parents didn't love me.
Mm-hmm.
So, event, blue bicycle. Context, I've been asking for it a long time. The emotional content was, I was finally happy because I realized that my wish was met. Now, once you've got event, context, and emotional content, that happy was a high point on my chart for that age, then what is the wisdom message that that event could be turned into? And the wisdom message that that event could be turned into is, my parents really did love me.
And awareness.
And I learned that at 6. I could carry that the rest of my life. So we ask people to put down divorce, bankruptcy, a happy event like a marriage, an unhappy event like a death of a child, all kinds of events in your life. And then they make charts and put them on the wall. You participated in that.
Yes.
We don't compel anybody to tell their life story. If they want to, we usually get enough volunteers to tell their story that it's helpful. But the interesting thing is, everybody, if there's 20 people in the class, every one of the 20 have ups and downs. They're not always bright lights in our life. There's some down times in our life. And that's life. That's the way life is. There's ups and downs. But when we look for the emotional content and the wisdom message, now we can say, out of these negative things that happened in my life, what were the wisdom messages? Out of these positive things, and often we learn more from the negative things that happen in our life than the positive ones, and it's terrific that we can benefit by our successes and benefit by what we thought were failures, but they're not failures, they're just learnings.
Learnings.
We don't have successes, in my vocabulary, we don't have successes and failures. We have successes and learnings. And we learn from everything.
And this takes you introspective. It takes you into yourself so that you know really what you're all about and why, when it happened and how you survived it and what you took out of it. And it's a very valuable experience.
Now that experience, everybody that has been through the class enjoys, but not everybody is comfortable doing the exercise. It's a little bit of homework. Maybe it only takes an hour, but to go back and think of the 8 most important events in your life takes some time and reflection. And too many people are just on with life, and they're reflecting on what happened last week and the bad things in their life right now. And the really important thing is, what have you learned so far for the last 60, 70 years?
Well, I would encourage everyone watching the show today to experience doing this bit of homework for yourself. I assure you it will be a valuable, valuable learning lesson for you. Bill, how do we share as seniors? What can we do with sharing what we've learned along the way?
Well, the most important thing in sharing is listening. You think that sharing, you should be telling somebody. But sharing, the most important thing is to listen first. Stephen Covey wrote a book, The 7 Measures of Effective Managers, or something like that. And he said it is more important to understand than to be understood. So the first thing you think of is listening to the other person. So if you have a friend and you're talking with them, you don't tell them what they ought to do with their life. You ask them how things going, and how did it used to be, and what happened when you were 20, and what happened when you were 50, and all of a sudden you can get in a position to be able to share with them something that happened in your life that relates to what they are talking about. So it's difficult to tell people what they ought to do, but if they have a problem and then you're having a friendly conversation, you could say, well, in my case, this is what worked for me.
That would be spreading the wisdom.
But you have to listen first and then tell.
You wrote a book. I have that book, As the Soul Teaches. It's a wonderful book. I will reread that book because there are very good messages in there, important things that are easy to grasp. I'd like you to tell a little bit, a highlight summary of that book, if you will.
As the Soul Teaches, people who write, and I've written 4 books now, don't always write for the general public. They write for their own personal satisfaction, And if the general public likes it, fine. If the general public doesn't like it, that's okay too.
Uh-huh.
As the Soul Teachers was a therapeutic writing exercise for me. And, of my various books, I've sold over 20,000 books, so, maybe I sold some books too, but the writing is important. As the Soul Teachers, I had to do some reflection and think about what's the important things in life. And I'll give you a couple of little summary statements that come from that. One of the conclusions is the purpose of life is to love and be loved, period. So you can go on and on and on what is the purpose of life. But it's really about relationships. And if you are loved and you're loving others, now that means interpersonal relationships are really what life is about. Do you have a fancy car or a fancy house or fancy clothes is not as important as what kind of a relationship do you have with your children and your grandchildren and your spouse and all that. So happy people are people who have good relationships with friends and family. And if you want to have a happy life, then the purpose of life is to love and be loved, period. So that's sort of one of the summary little statements.
It's a small statement, but it's huge. It really is huge, and we all know that we reflect in love. A baby grows from it, not only the food, the nurturing, and the loving, all of that, the smiles on their faces because they're greeted with a smile. And I found your book to be extremely valuable. It made me examine things very closely, and because when all is said and done and a person ends up and they're near the end of their time, Jackie Kennedy said, if you've made a few good friends and you have some wonderful memories, that's what it's all about.
And yet she was very famous and very rich.
Yes.
Very beautiful, very famous, very rich. And what did she say at the end?
Memories and
Memories
a few
and friends. Right?
Yes.
I mean, so we make
nothing you could buy, that's for sure.
Well, people who have worked a long time in business or in any portion of the economy wrestle with that issue. And the statement that is very popular but also true, nobody on their deathbed ever said, I wish I'd spent more time at the office. But going through life, sometimes they're spending too much time at the office.
Yes.
But if you take the perspective of nobody on their deathbed ever said, I wish I'd spent more time at the office, maybe you'd change your life a little bit. So you have to have that reflection. The concept of love is really powerful, an important one. And of course, wisdom, these are the lessons that you get from your life about love being maybe more important than money. Okay? Mm-hmm. But we act every day like money is so important, and maybe love is much more important. Yeah. So what are you going to be remembered by?
Yeah.
The rich man who has no friends has no people at the funeral.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So is that really important? Our English language has a problem with the word love, because love has many more meanings. And the Greeks had a little better situation because they had 3 different words for love. And love was eros, which is the erotic male-female kind of love, mm-hmm. and phileo, which is love for your family and your close relatives, and then agape is love for every human being on earth. So when we have used the word love to mean all of those things, the erotic male-female love of a spouse, and as well as the family is love, and all humanity is, that word love falls apart. Our English language is not rich enough. Agape is a powerful concept of you can love every single person in the whole world, even ex-murderers. and that it's okay with agape. That doesn't mean that you want to live next door to them. That doesn't mean that you want to invite them for dinner, but you love them. And why do you love every human being in the world in an agape way? Is because they are the creation of the source, just like you are the creation of the source. And who says you're any better than them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And maybe you can judge them, but you're maybe better off saying you can love everybody. Now, that's difficult because sometimes, for instance, with your children, you have to say, I love you dearly, but this is your punishment. You know, there has to be consequences.
You have to, yeah,
you can
there
love
are
them.
consequences.
They love them, and yet discipline is an important act of love, and that's why we have the word tough love. Our society has slipped quite a bit with the mixture of the word love and sex.
Yeah, it's too loosely used.
Because we say, make love, when really it is a sexual attraction instead of a long-term connection between a man and a woman that is going to be a lifelong one, hopefully. So when you have sloppy words like, excuse me, love and sex being used interchangeably, then you get sloppy results. And so we've gone through a sexual revolution. And the sexual revolution said, make love, not war. And, oh, well, we don't want war, so what do? We make love. What does that mean? You have sex with everybody. Okay? So not having the thorough words sometimes gets in the way. And so our culture has changed dramatically over the last 50 years because of some of the ways we use and misuse the word love. But getting back to wisdom, the real wisdom in life we can find from those 8 experiences. I'd like to change the tone here. I found a movie which is just so priceless in its value of wisdom.
Would you please just say the name, and we'll do a roll on it later, and so our audience knows about it, but tell us the name of that story.
This is a CD, and we'll put it on the screen for you. It's called Akeelah and the Bee. Akeelah, Akeelah, and the Bee. And the Bee is B-E-E. And it turns out it's a young woman, 11-year-old girl, I should say. And she's extremely bright, and she participates in the Scripps Spelling Bee. And she goes on to the national contest in Washington, D.C.
Is this a true story, Bill?
Yes, it's based on a true story. And the beauty of it is there's fantastic wisdom in it. If you like stories that are heartwarming, this is one of them. If you want one that gives you just tremendous amount of wisdom, this is one of them. But it is not a movie that has special effects. There's no automobile crashes and no outer space experiences and so on. So this is not a special effects movie. This is a human interest story about a young girl who is so bright but isn't tapping her full potential. And where does she get the wisdom to tap her full potential? And she gets it from other people. Those relationships are so powerful.
And that's, I want to recommend that. I'm going to be watching it, and Bill and I will be talking about it between ourselves, but I would like the audience to watch this movie, and this will give you a little bit of a feeling of what Bill and I are talking about today. It's relationships. It's what love can do for people. It's a success story. Am I right?
It is, and my wife and I saw it last year because it came out in the early part of 2006. And then I was in a video store and I saw it and I said, I'm going to have it. So I bought it and we watched it last week on our home television. And we were crying. And we were emotionally involved. And it's the second time we've seen it. It's just it's that powerful that it has no swear words in it, and it's very, very nice story. I guess it's rated PG.
That's the kind I like.
This is a family. This is something that you could give your grandchildren and not be afraid of it because it's so wonderful. And yet it is about how do people pull themselves out of very bad situations. And to go back to what I said earlier, the secret is call it inconvenient and get on with your life.
Remove the obstacles.
Remove the obstacles. Call those things that are going bad in your life, and then you will be able to get on with it because you're taking responsibility for yourself.
That's the key word. Too many people, young people particularly, play the victim. Father was such and such or not in the picture, so what do you expect from me? You don't expect much, and they expect nothing of themselves, and they're playing the victim. They're not taking responsibility for their own life and their actions.
A victim mentality is a big trap that some people fall in. And young people can fall into it because they're not tall enough, or they're not pretty enough, or they have a skin color that isn't popular in this group, or whatever. But it can happen to seniors too. Seniors can play victim. You know, I am sick and I can't walk around, but then other seniors get a little cart, go-kart, what do you call it?
And they go.
And they go all the time in the cart. Yeah. They can't walk, but they can still think, and they can still play cards, and they can still do lots of other things.
It's that positive
So it's
attitude.
an attitude in life. What can I do? I'd like to try something else that is a little departure on wisdom. And I've used this in groups, and I would like to share it with this group. I will we'll put this on the screen. This is a picture of a girl, and she's looking at a butterfly, and she's living in a garden. And we'll have that on the screen as I talk.
What does it say underneath?
Underneath it says, "May you find a little joy in every ordinary moment." Finding joy in every moment. Now I'm going to turn that into a little bit of a summary here for us. What is wisdom, and what would this picture tell us about wisdom? The little girl is looking at a butterfly. And so we could say the butterfly is a metaphor for wisdom. It's an image that means something else, so that's the metaphor. So the butterfly is the image for wisdom. What else does she know? She has learned some things. So in life, we go through stages. First of all, we get some facts. And this little girl has some facts. In the picture, you'll notice that she has a lot of flowers in her hand. She has learned to count those flowers. She knows that she has 33 flowers because she knows how to count as high as 33. She knows the color of each one. So she's learned the colors and she's learned the numbers. So she counts to 33 and she knows all those colors, so she has facts. But the next level from facts is information. Information is a step higher than facts. The information that she has is that she's living in a beautiful place. Looks like a beautiful garden with flowers and trees and everything. She's got nice clothes on. She feels like she has got information in addition to facts. The next level, facts, then information. The next level is the level of intelligence. And intelligence she has accumulated. And if you look at her eyes...
Let's hold her up a little. I love looking. She's a Native American little girl.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any difference
No,
what her origin is. Her eyes are looking up at her mouth, and her eyes are saying, this is a fabulous world. It's almost a look of awe, A-W-E, right? Or awe look on her face. Oh my goodness, what a wonderful world. So she has gotten some facts. She knows the counting and the colors, the information of her beautiful surroundings. And now she's gathering intelligence. She's got some things, some beads around her neck and a little cap on her head. And those probably were given to her by her mother. And they have a symbolism to her that accumulate intelligence. So we can get facts and information and intelligence. The unusual thing that's going on in this world today is that many of the accumulation of facts and information that can be done by computers. Therefore, what we need to do is to figure out what is the most important things humans can do. And what humans can do, and this picture shows it, is to have wisdom. And that wisdom comes from two areas. Number one is the wisdom of interpersonal relationships. She is thinking about her mother even though her mother is not in the picture. So interpersonal relationships is one of the human sides of our job. And the other thing is using our imagination. So we have moved to the level of imagination. So wisdom is paying attention to human relationships and paying attention to our imagination, which are the most powerful things in life. And that's the kind of wisdom we're all looking for.
Yes, and reading and the books, and for even people that are shut in, a good book can take you to another land and on a wonderful voyage, and because life is a journey. Bill, I want to thank you so much for being here today and sharing your wonderful messages, and they're things that could apply to everybody in everyday life. It was a valuable lesson here today, and I so enjoyed having you. I look forward very, very much to being with you in the future. I know you have many, many interesting topics to share with our community, and I look forward to bringing that to the community. For Channel 22, I'm Barbara Mel Goldman, here today with Bill Peter. It's been a lovely day, and that's a wrap.